the channel. It has been a hot minute since we've done a video. Apologies about that if you are a fan of the channel. It's been a difficult time, I've got to be honest. The last 3 months have been all over the place. You may remember at the end of the last video I was talking about how things are going wrong and everything was bad, blah, blah. And it was a real bad time for me, to be another word for it. I bought a lot of cars that needed a lot of money spending on them. I'm not saying they were missold to me, but they were missold to me. Using motorway, you know, thinking to get a better quality of car from there, and being rightly stitched up by the general public. There's a surprise for a motor trader. And had to take a good hard look at myself and say, is this really what I can do? Can I do this? I guess when you've sold 70 cars and you've not really had any comeback really, although there's another video to come about that one. You think, well, actually, yeah, you can do it. It's just, you know, how to make the numbers work. So one thing you know in this business is that the difference with this business to say I'm not saying any other business, but to many businesses, is that if you own a corner shop, for example, you're buying tins of beans that cost, I don't know, 30p and you're selling them for 40p. They're the cheap ones. They're the nicer ones. If you're buying Heinz ones, they're a lot more expensive than that. But anyway, and your stock is what it is, and you're only ever spending, you know, 6, 7, maybe 10 grand on stock that you'll sell, bring in some more stock, and that's it. A car dealing is exactly the same, but the numbers are exponentially bigger. If you take a look behind me, and the subject of this video is this is what you can kind of get for, I was going to say 5 grand, but to be fair, it's a little bit over 5 grand. That's what I paid for these 3, and I'll go into the story about these in a second. But going back to the original point, you know, you cannot have enough money when you're dealing in this business, because everything, you've got to have 2 noughts on the end of everything, no matter what it is: a repair, a service, a purchase, the rent, insurance, auto trade, or advertising, you know, whatever it is, everything costs that much more. And it got to a point where, you know, like I said, I had a really hard look at myself, and to cut a long story short, thought, yes, I can do this, but the only way I can do this is with more money. So put everything together to find out how we could make it work. Took a secured second charge out on the house. Well, that's going through at the moment, but that'll be plunged into more stock. And then get to a point where if we sell 10 cars a month, or I sell 10 cars a month, there's always 10 more behind it to go. At the moment, what's happening is selling 7, 8, 10 cars a month, and then there's a gap while I'm having to buy more stock in, get it prepared, get it ready, get it to the point to be sold. And there's about a 2 or 3 week, maybe even 4 week period in that bit in the middle where you're not really selling anything, and you're going from famine, feast. And if the feast doesn't happen, you've got famine, feast, famine, feast. And they're the gaps that are really hard to deal with. And, you know, when you're playing around with less than, and this is going to sound really obtuse, but it's true, less than 100 grand, you can't really get the amount of stock in you need to keep churning. And I know there's channels on YouTube saying you can flip a car for 500 quid, and look, 3 weeks later, I've got a Ferrari. Yeah, that's all very well, but if you want to run it as a business, that's not something you can do. Every month is a challenge. And yeah, to get back to the point I was making, it just needed more money. So that's going through at the moment. Now in a position where a lot of the stock has gone, a few of the imports have gone, which was cash that was tied up. So that's come back. And now in a position where, let's say, we can trade normally again. And I keep saying we're is Raskas and me. We are, you know, in it together, basically. So if I keep saying we, that's where that comes from. Bees. I don't know if you know, we've got beehives just up the road here, and they're lovely. It's lovely, great to have bees, but they drop. If anyone's ever lived near bees, you'll know what I'm talking about here. They drop pollen everywhere. I can wash a car, go away, come back to it maybe with a towel, and it's covered in yellow gunge and goo. It's an absolute, and it's horrible to get off. It's a really oily substance, pollen. First world problems, I know. But anyway, that's where we were. We're back to trading again, and profitably, and we're in business. So sold a load a couple of weeks ago. went to auction this week to pick up some stock. There's one car that really interested me. It was, and don't laugh at me and don't judge me, it was a Jaguar XE 2009, and it looked mint. I've got to be honest, it looked absolutely mint. It had a lovely service history. Everything on it was great, and it was like, I don't know, cheap as chips. Done 80,000 miles. It wasn't expensive. So put the auction online on the morning, and sorry, it's a very boring camera angle, this me talking to you like this, isn't it? But it is what it is. Sat there waiting for this car to go through. I'd seen the running order where it was. I was waiting for it to go through. That one went through beforehand, and I picked that up for 390 quid. Ford Focus 1.8 Z-Tech, and it's done about, you'll know from the MOT history what it is, but I'll put a spec sheet up somewhere here about the figures and everything about the car. That was 390 quid. That went through not long after, and I'm a sucker for a cheap Mini, not going to lie, and I'll always be a sucker. I need to get out of the habit of it because they always end up costing me money, and this one's going to be no different, but again, we'll get into that in a second. And finally, and before you all say, oh no, he's bought an EcoBoom, oh my God, everything's going to go wrong. Ford EcoBoost, sorry, EcoSport EcoBoost. Yes, I know all about the EcoBooms, whatever. The thing about the old EcoBoom thing is, yes, there's obviously an issue with them. I know Ford have come out with a recent update with regards to recalls and stuff. If you haven't seen Car UK's channel, it's literally called Car UK. Go and have a look at that. He goes into it in depth, really good videos, and goes into the problem with Ford in depth, and about how they're coming to the party with warranties. If they ever do come to the party, this one won't come to it, but it's only done 29,000 miles, engines and sound as you like. Doesn't tick, doesn't rattle or anything like that any more than a normal EcoBoost would. Obviously, being 3 cylinders, it's always out of kilter, but it's okay at the moment. 29,000 miles, paid £3.5 for this, and the reason why that was cheap was there's a little bit of damage down the side, which I didn't really see. It isn't that severe. It looks worse than it is, but anyway. The second thing on it, and this is a real tip for you if you're looking for a cheap car, is this one's got a mileage discrepancy on it. If you look at the MOT history on this, and if I'm editing properly, I'll put this up on the screen now. You'll see that the mileage goes up to about 30, then drops back down to 20, and we're back to where we are today at 29. From calculations I can look at, I can see that I think what's happened is it's been registered in kilometres for 6 years. Someone's realised, changed it to miles, and that's what's caused the discrepancy. Now, main dealers and anyone franchise or anything like that can't sell those. A lot of them have got a policy that we will not sell cars that have got mileage discrepancies because it may look like we've clocked them and, you know, we're selling a car without warranted mileage. But in a case like this, you wouldn't get to 30,000 miles and then clock it 10,000 miles to get back to 20. It's just not going to happen. So it's a way of getting, because they go for not a lot of money at the auctions, because obviously your buyer base who's buying these cars is a lot lower. A lot of other dealers don't like selling them because of this. But actually, as long as you explain to the client and say, look, this is the situation. It has got a discrepancy. I'm being upfront and honest about it, but this is why I think it's happened. I can't guarantee that's why it is, but just so you know, the mileage isn't wrong. The mileage isn't correct on the history, which means there may have been an error or there may have been an incident where the clocks have been changed. However, I don't think that's the case. I just think it's a case of kilometres have been changed to miles, and that's what it is. And they're quite, with the digital speedos and the digital odometers these days, it's actually quite easy to do that and not realise, because a lot of them, especially on this one, the miles and the kilometres are so small to see that you'll just see a number and think that's your odometer. So I think that's what's happened with that. That's cheap. So for the three, step out of view slightly, for the three, as I say, 400, 1,600, 3.5. So £5.5 for the 3 cars. Retail, in an ideal world, the EcoSport's a £7,000 car, 6,995. That's 3 295 maybe, 3495 at a push, given the fact that it's not in immaculate condition. It is after all, a 12-year-old car. Let's say it's a £3,000 car. And that, we'll come to that in a second, because I need your input on that one, because that's quite a fun one. Anyway, so yes, as we were saying, it's in a pretty good condition, I have to say. The damage I was talking about down the side is down here on the trim, and I think it looks worse than it is. I think it is just the trim, and it's one side piece which I can get for 70 quid on the door, and the sill piece there is about 130, I think. So 200 quid for both, and by the looks of it, I don't think the door is I say I'm more interested in the sill, to be honest, because that's got a bit of a ridge work. I don't know if you can see that there. But honestly, I think that's just two pieces of trim. And apart from that, and a couple of bits of dent work. Sorry about the train. Obviously, Sunday's no different from any other day for them. Apart from that, she's actually in pretty good condition. The wheels are lovely on them. Obviously, this front one isn't. That's got a bit of lacquer peel on it, but it really sets the car off nice. It's a titanium model, so it looks great. Drove it back absolutely fine. The good thing about all three of these is they drove back okay. This one's going to need two front tyres because it was wobbling all over the place, and the tyre thing lights on. What do they call them? Tyre pressure monitoring system is on, and it's not that tyre, it's this one. And you can see this one. Yeah, if you look closely, I don't know how good the camera is here, but you can see that the tyre is starting to crack. It's a nice, I think it's a what's this one? An EcoMax, where are we? Oh, an Infinity. This one's an Infinity. And I think the other side is a Triangle. Not the best tyres in the world. And to be fair, I can put a couple of Lauferns on them for, I think they're 80 quid a piece. So 160, and that should sort out the front two. Wave to everybody. Hello, train. And that should sort out the handling on it, because I said it seemed like, you know, when you've got a Fiat and it's got the electric steering in city mode, it felt like that. So I honestly think that's probably what's up with that, or at least I hope so anyway. So that's that one. And I say, apart from that, I can't really find anything else wrong with it. One thing that did scare me is I opened the bonnet and the engine cover was missing, and that's never a good sign. You think, oh dear, why is that off? However, I've since read up that in order to save money, because that must cost all of like £1.80, Ford deleted them off a number of EcoBoost models, Fiesta particularly, presumably EcoSports. I couldn't find it, but I'm guessing it was EcoSports. But they kept it on the Focus for a certain length of time before that lost it as well. So that's why there's no engine cover. So that made me palpitate slightly. Sorry, mic touch. So yeah, that's that one. Secondly, is this piece of junk. It's actually in pretty good nick, I've got to be honest. There's not much wrong with it bodywork wise. It's only a mini one, but it's got a pepper pack on it. It's got the upgraded alloys. Well, it's got alloys as opposed to upgraded alloys, because the ones came with wheel trims. So it's got that. As I say, it'll photograph really well and it'll look really nice in photos. But, and I'm just going to pause the video here because I'm going to open the car and show you the bonnet stuff and what goes on under there. Now I can't find the key, which is probably in it. It is. No, it's not. But it's open. So we can bonnet release the other side, obviously. So no matter how many times you do this job, you always forget until you've opened 100 which side the bonnet. One thing you don't forget though is where the bonnet releases, because everyone's different. Everyone's a pain. So I'm going to get closer until you can see the issue. Can you see it yet? Can you see it yet? Can you see it yet? What is that? Some sort of sealant on the rocker. Now, I picked some of it away to see what it was, and I think it is just gasket seal. But you can see around the back. Can you see down there? Well, probably not, but there is clump of it down there. No, camera's not having it. Come on. No, anyway, there's a clump of red down there. Not so bad round this side. There's nothing there. But it is all the way across the front. And go to check the oil, and yeah, about that. So I did manage to get this off in the end, and so there is a bit of gunk, but it's all clean. There's no like cylinder thing, and you can see in there. You know, it all looks okay. It all looks nice, and to be fair, the oil is pretty clean. The cooler looks like it's had better days, but it is kind of pink. And I think what it is, if I in the service book, you can see there's no. That's my finger. Don't worry, it's not oil. Do that again. You can see it's nice and clean. It looks worse than it is, but I think the reason that is in the service book. The last 3 entries in the service book are handwritten. The person has serviced the car, but thought all I need to do is change oil and filter, which okay. And never done the coolant, and the coolant's probably 4 or 5 years old, starting to corrode in there because it's never been renewed, and hence why that's horrible. So like every other, I mean this honestly, like every other Mini that I've had, I'm gonna have to change the rocker cover because plastic cracks. It's obviously happened with this one. It's pissed out oil everywhere. There's sealant on it. I mean, I say it drove back absolutely fine, no problem with it driving back. I was conscious, obviously, knowing what I'd seen, that oil was going to piss out of the oil cap because it's not on there tight at all. As you can see, it will not lock. There's no way you can lock it in place. So, you know, I was conscious that was going to jerk out a load of oil and, you know, come back to the following morning. And yes, there's an oil patch on the floor. Small one, but there is one, presumably from that. So, yeah, there's probably about 500 quid's worth of work there to get that taken off, get all that shit taken off it, and give it a proper service, a coolant flush, and make sure that that is as good as it can be. And, you know, maybe there's a little bit of profit in it, maybe there isn't, who knows. But we'll see anyway, and it is what it is. Apart from that, a good clean, you can see the bonnet stripes are, at first I thought this was like how they should be, and it kind of made it a little bit more rustic. Excuse me, that's my sausage sandwich this morning. But I just think they're getting a little bit old. You see down the front, they're not quite as cracked, but as you go further back, the plastic has started to give way, and yeah, they don't look the greatest in the world. But anyway, from a distance, you know, if you needed a nice car, and to be fair, when that's finished, it will be a nice, reliable car. Yeah, it's £3 probably. I say a proper retail in really good condition will be 3.5. You know, I think 3 is probably fair for that, to be honest, once it's all ready to go. Right, battery's dying on this camera, so I'm just going to pop in, change, and then we're back out. Right, we're back. We're back with a fresh battery. So, yes, the Focus. Now, probably like me, if I was in your position, I'd be wondering why in God's earth Earth's a word if you didn't know. why on God's earth would you buy something like that? Because if you look, the paintwork's seen better days. It's going rusty on the bonnet. I just say the paintwork's a little bit garbagey. Well, it's a lot garbage. Basically, it's a well-worn car. The EML light's on, and I'll put the code up, or the codes up for it on the screen. I think it's an inlet manifold fault. I mean, there's not too much rust on it. The reason I got it, I thought, okay, look, it's 400 quid with fees. I think it's about 600. What's the worst that can happen? And the reason I looked at this, and if you haven't beaten me to it already, I'll put it up on the screen now. The MOT history for this thing is immaculate. Bearing in mind, this is 17 years old. and just look at the history for it. I mean, talk about well maintained. It's literally never had an advice. Well, I say never from memory. I think it had one, but obviously you'll see it in the excuse me. You'll see it in the screen in the screens I'm putting up on the screen. Like I said, I think there might have been one advisory maybe early on for something fairly minor, but I mean, and that's why when I saw it going through and I saw it had such a clean history, I thought, bloody hell, for less than 400 quid. I mean, if anyone ever came to me and said, I need a cheap car, it's like, well, there you go. And this is what I want you to comment down below is, what do you think I should do with that car? Should I get the faults repaired and get it fixed? And if I do, how much is that car worth? And if I don't, and I just sell it as it is, and to be fair, it drives fine. It just has a little bit of a stutter at low rev. So when it's sat there idling, so the lights aren't flashing. That's just the shutter speed, so they are just normal. And you can see when you just add throttle, it just dies a little bit. Put my foot on the throttle. Just a little cough at the start. Almost get it to stall, but it won't. But once it's up to revs, just revs fine. On the way back, drove it down the motorway from Stafford to here. We're just not far from Watford Gap services, so about 50 miles probably. And it drove absolutely fine all the way home. Not a cough, not a splutter. The aircon works. It's not cold, but it works. And as I say, the EML light is for that little fault. Do I sell it like it is with faults for under £1,000? Because nowadays a car with a history like it's got, and I think it's got an MOT through till the envelope's on the dash there. Does it say on there on where it is? No, it's just got the mileage on it, unfortunately. It hasn't got the MOT history, or the date rather. But I do think it's 2025, the MOT on it. Again, we'll see when from the screen we've already put up what it was. But, you know, for 6-7 months motoring, that isn't going to cost you a lot. And then when it comes to being MOT time, you can get the EML fixed for, I'm guessing it's going to be a couple of £100, probably just a seal gone or a sensor or something at the age it is. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, be really interested in your thoughts on that one. If you could comment down below and let me know what you think, that'd be really interesting, because I'm kind of a little bit of a, I like having cars like that here, because I guarantee someone comments, say you've got a cheap car, and having a couple of cars I can point at and say, well, that's not much. I've got an Astra GTC in there as well that's costing me more money than you can shake a stick at. Every time I fix something, something else goes wrong with it. And they're not, I say they're not mine, they're not major things. Like the boot switch on the GTC, you've got a Vauxhall badge that clicks back and forward. That's gone. Trying to find a white one was an arse sake, but I've got that now, so that'll be done. I've just had to put 4 new injectors in it after I've had it serviced. It drives absolutely fine, but it says service soon, and it's the glow plugs. Did I say spark plugs? It's glow plugs that have got the sensors on them. They're 150 quid each, or 120 quid each if you buy 4. So that's 500 quid I've spent on it for that. So it's been serviced. That was 300 quid. The MOT, you know, and there's bits of rust on it as well. It's just like, oh God. So I'm thinking of starting like a little cheapy section where I can just have cheapy cars. And I never thought I'd come to this, got to be honest. I thought I was better than this, but I guess every trader's got to do it. Have some cheap stuff out that, you know, you can move on. and just keep that churn going. It's great for the turnover. And to be fair, like I said, I think that's actually a good car. I don't think there's that much wrong with it. Obviously, the guys down at the garage will let me know exactly what's wrong with it. I don't do any mechanical work here myself, by the way. I've got some great guys down about 2 miles away, Long Buckby Wharf, that do all that for me. So yeah, and that's one thing I did want to say. If anyone's watching this and you're thinking about starting a business or whatever, and I keep saying I'll make a video about it, I will. But it's really important you've got a really good set, or a really good, not a set, but like a group of garages that work for you. Don't rely on one, because unless they're like really into working with you, they've got their own business to run. And I'm not saying you're at the back of the queue, but you'll never be at the front of the queue. You're always like fill-in work. So I've got 4 or 5 different garages that I use, along with main dealers for big issues. You know, just to make sure that things keep churning. That was something when I was having the conversation with myself about how to make this work, was not to have cars sat around at workshops waiting for work, because they're no good there. Can't sell them when they're there. And every car that's sat at a workshop is money you got tied up. And when I was having the real heart to heart, it became obvious that you can't have that money tied up. It's got to be available to be sold at all times. So the quicker we can get, not so much that, that'll be done as and when it's done. It's a 400 quid outlay, so it's not huge. That needs to get the tyres done, which again isn't a massive job, and get that MOT'd. And then we'll get that into, I've got another BMW specialist in Milton Keynes that works with us, and see if we can get that one, get that one sorted and done, and get that one ready. Because I think that's the case of putting my mind at rest. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like I say, apart from the oil cap not fitting properly, I don't think there's much wrong with it. But it's more for my peace of mind to make sure that the car is okay, and there's no gunk floating around in the engine from that sealant stuff. So I'll get to do a full flush on that, clean it all out, coolant flush as well, get all that done. It's going to cost me probably about, I don't know, 800 quid probably to get all that done and have it done properly. So that'll take virtually all the profit out of the car, but we live and learn, don't we? So yeah, that's that. I have got plans to do some more videos. As I say, I've had 3 months off just to get my head straight about what I was doing and where I was going with the channel. Let's put this down for a second. Oh, that's now sorted, and I know where I am and I know what I'm doing. But while I've been sitting around, I have thought about a few more videos to do, and I've got a load of ideas. But this video is more to get me back in front of the camera so I can speak to you guys and try and explain what happened. But now I've done that, and now it's not a confidence thing, it's more about always finding something else to do rather than standing in front of a camera. So now I've got that off my chest, we will go forward and do more videos. What I'd also be interested to know is I've got 3 ideas in my head about things, and I'd appreciate your comments below about what you'd like to see. So one of them is my beef with Auto Trader at the moment, because they're a real pain in my arse. I think a pain in most motor traders' arses. If you'd like to see a video about that, tell me. Another one is about how valuations on cars work, and I don't just mean like, oh well, cap's this and cap's that. Cap isn't what you think it is, and there's a lot more behind the scenes about what actually goes into the valuation of a car, from new right the way through to this and beyond. And the third one I was going to do is about how auctions work, and I know that this is probably going to get the most interest. And I know everyone's going to say, well, it's easy how auctions work, but honestly, I'm on so many groups on Facebook and other platforms, Reddit and stuff, where I see comments from people that obviously don't know how auctions work. You obviously think how an auction works and how reserves work and how provisional bids work and everything like that, and what goes on behind the scenes. But there's a lot more to it and a lot more hidden stuff behind it. And I'll probably lose a lot of friends by going into detail on that, but I can go into that as well. So out of those 3, Auto Trader, what was the middle one? Valuations and auctions. those are the three main ones I've got in my head, along with doing videos about other bits and pieces as well. Let me know what you think. Sorry about all the static shots, but it's just easy for me to film this way until I get time to do more proper filming and more hand gestures, because hand gestures are always good. Yeah, anyway, thank you for sticking with the channel. I know some people have dipped in and dipped out. The subscriber count has stayed about level. I've seen it, you know, up and down. Thanks for sticking with me. If you haven't subscribed already, and I've got to ask, it's on every video. Every YouTube person says, always ask them to subscribe, because if you don't ask them, they never will. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Like the video, because it lets the YouTube algorithm know that this is actually a decent video worth watching. If you like it that much, great. If you dislike it, then hit the button twice on the thumbs down. That's even better. And yeah, thanks for sticking with us. I've said that before, say it again, and I'll see you soon in the next video. So cheers, guys.